Welcome Morningstar peeps to another illuminating video.
Chapter 1. The Birth Gambit, a Trickster's Confession. From the moment consciousness stirred in Maya's womb, I was already scheming. Zeus thought he was having another casual affair, sneaking to that cave on Silene while Hera slept. The old fool had no idea he was being played by an unborn mastermind who had already mapped out his entire ascension strategy. See, I knew the game before I entered it. 12 Olympian seats, 11 already filled with Zeus's legitimate children and carefully chosen allies. One slot remaining, one chance for an upstart trickster to claim divine authority. But how does a bastard baby born in a cave compete with established gods who built their power through millennia? Simple. You don't compete. You redefine the game. While floating in amniotic fluid, I studied the system. Apollo, golden boy, daddy's favorite, controller of prophecy and music. Hera's hatred for Zeus's bastards meant no direct path through family politics. The other gods saw newcomers as threats to their domains. Traditional power plays wouldn't work. So I designed something unprecedented. A con so elegant, so perfectly orchestrated, that my victims would beg to give me what I wanted. The theft of Apollo's cattle wasn't impulsive mischief. It was the opening move in a chess game I'd been planning since conception. Every instinctive action you'll witness was rehearsed in utero. The tortoiseshell lyre calculated. The backwards cattle tracks, strategic misdirection. The innocent baby act before Zeus, Academy Award-worthy performance art. They call me the god of thieves, but that misses the point entirely. I'm the god of systems hacking, finding exploits in reality's code, turning the very rules that should exclude me into weapons of inclusion. The real theft wasn't Apollo's cattle. It was the theft of inevitability itself. Maya thought she was hiding from the gods. In reality, she was incubating the greatest infiltration operation in cosmic history. That cave wasn't my nursery. It was my war room, my laboratory, my launching pad into immortality. By dawn, everything changes. Watch closely. Class is in Chapter 2, The Great Escape. Swaddling clothes were never going to hold me. You want to know the moment I knew I had them all fooled? When Maya wrapped me in those adorable little swaddling clothes, cooing about her precious baby who needed protection from the big, scary world. Protection. I was the scary thing the world needed protection from, but I let her believe it. Rule number 1 of advanced trickery: let your marks think they understand the situation. Maya saw a helpless infant. I saw the perfect cover story. What threat could possibly emerge from something so small, so new, so dependent? The winnowing basket cradle was a nice touch, humble, rustic, thoroughly non-threatening. While she watched over her sleeping baby, I was actually conducting final surveillance, memorizing every sound, every rhythm, mapping the precise timing of her rest cycles. Mortals think divine babies need months to develop basic motor skills. Adorable misconception. I was born with full consciousness, complete muscular control, and a burning desire to begin phase 1 immediately. But patience, Hermes, let them underestimate. Underestimation is the trickster's greatest advantage. The moment Maya's breathing shifted into deep sleep, I struck. Those swaddling clothes, child's play, literally. The physics of cloth bindings versus divine determination wasn't even close to a fair contest. I unwrapped myself like a birthday present to the world, silent as shadow, smooth as silk. Standing on divine legs that had never officially walked, I felt the electric thrill of the con beginning in earnest. Every step toward that cave entrance was a step toward immortality, toward power, toward proving that intelligence beats birthright every single time. The outside world greeted me with cool mountain air and infinite possibility. No guards, no supervision, no divine babysitters, just pure freedom and a universe that had no idea what had just been unleashed upon it. Direction, Pieria, target, Apollo's sacred cattle. Objective, create chaos so compelling, so audacious, so unprecedented that Zeus himself would have to pay attention to his newest son. As I walked through that first night, each footstep was a declaration of war against the established order. The old gods gained power through inheritance, through political marriage, through centuries of careful positioning. I was going to take mine in a single evening through pure, audacious brilliance. Behind me, Maya slept peacefully, dreaming of her quiet life and her safe, hidden baby. Poor thing had no idea she'd just given birth to the future god of boundaries, and that the first boundary I was crossing was the one between helpless infant and cosmic force of nature. The cattle were waiting. Apollo was here. The stage was set. Chapter 3, The Tortoise Gambit, How to Turn Murder into Music. They'll tell you I discovered the tortoise by accident. That inspiration struck randomly. Adorable mythology. I'd been tracking that particular tortoise for 20 minutes, studying its shell geometry, calculating resonance possibilities, and waiting for the perfect dramatic moment. What have we here? I said aloud as if genuinely surprised. Even when you're alone, practice your performance. The universe is always watching, and authenticity is just method acting taken to its logical extreme. The tortoise looked up at me with those ancient, patient eyes. "You will help me become a god," I informed it politely. "Your sacrifice will echo through eternity in the most beautiful music ever created. I'm offering you immortality through transformation. Most mortals never get such an opportunity." Did it understand irrelevant? Consent is a luxury for creatures who have choices. The tortoise's destiny was already written the moment I needed its shell for my grand design. One quick motion, merciful, efficient, professional. No unnecessary suffering, just the surgical precision required to separate a soul from its housing. The shell came free like a gift unwrapping itself, perfect curvature intact, resonance chamber ready for its evolutionary upgrade. Now came the artistry. 7 sheep gut strings, because 7 is sacred to Apollo, a detail he'd noticed subconsciously, even if consciously he remained focused on his stolen cattle. Every element of this con was designed for maximum psychological impact. Stretching the strings across that hollow shell, I felt the moment when mere materials became something transcendent. The first tentative pluck produced a sound that made the mountains pause, a note so pure it seemed to reorganize reality around its vibration. But here's what they never tell you about that moment. I didn't just invent the lyre. I invented the concept of trading up. This instrument wasn't the goal. It was the bait, the hook, the irresistible offer that would force Apollo to negotiate from a position of desire rather than authority. See, I could have just stolen something from Apollo and ransomed it back. Crude, expected, ultimately powerless because it positions you as a common criminal. Instead, I created something Apollo had never seen, but would instantly recognize as essential to his divine nature. The tortoise became a lyre. The lyre became a trap. The trap became an invitation to the most elegant con in mythological history. As I held my creation, testing its voice against the morning air, I smiled at the beautiful irony. I just murdered a creature of earth and silence to birth an instrument of heaven and song. From death, life, from ending, beginning, from matter, meaning. Apollo had no idea what was coming for him. Poor Golden Boy was about to discover that his baby brother didn't just play games, I was the game, and I just dealt myself a royal flush with a deck he didn't even know existed. The lyre sang its first song, The Sound of Inevitability. Chapter 4, The Cattle Con, Grand Theft, Apollo. 50 sacred cattle grazing peacefully in Pieria under the protection of the god of prophecy himself. Beautiful, valuable, and most importantly, impossible to steal without consequences. Perfect target for someone who wanted those consequences more than the cattle themselves. Apollo's herd wasn't just livestock. It was a symbol of divine order, celestial authority, the established power structure made manifest in flesh and hide. Stealing them wasn't theft. It was revolution disguised as mischief, political upheaval wrapped in the innocent chaos of a newborn's prank. I approached those cattle like a general surveying a battlefield. Each animal represented a different strategic element. Publicity, you can't hide 50 missing cows. Legitimacy, they belong to a major Olympian. And inevitability, Apollo would have to respond, creating the confrontation I needed. But the real genius wasn't in the stealing. It was in the method. Anyone can rustle cattle. I was going to rustle cattle in a way that would become legendary, a masterclass in misdirection that would echo through every criminal endeavor afterward. First, the backwards tracks. While the cattle walked forward toward their new hiding place, I made their hoof prints suggest they'd traveled in the opposite direction. Basic psychological warfare. Make your enemy waste time searching where you've never been while you consolidate your position where they'd never think to look. Second, the woven reed sandals. No divine footprints leading to or from the scene. Let Apollo's investigative team wonder how 50 cattle moved themselves without human, or in this case, divine intervention. Mystery breeds fear, and fear breeds respect. Third, the ritual sacrifice. Here's where most thieves fail. They take and run. I took, shared, and elevated. 2 cattle became offerings to the 12 Olympians, cleverly including myself in that count, establishing my divine credentials through the very act of theft. Pinning their hides to the rocks wasn't casual disposal, it was signature. Hermes was here. Hermes did this. Hermes is powerful enough to steal Apollo's sacred cattle and confident enough to advertise the fact. The remaining 48 cattle disappeared into my hidden grotto, like coins vanishing into a magician's sleeve. Safe, secure, and completely irrelevant to the actual purpose of this operation. I didn't want to keep them, I wanted to be seen taking them. By dawn, Apollo would wake to discover his perfectly ordered world had been chaosized by an infant he'd never heard of. He'd rage, investigate, follow false leads, waste time and energy and dignity chasing shadows. And then, the beautiful moment when all that frustrated energy would be redirected into our inevitable confrontation, where a god of prophecy would meet a god of possibilities, where the old certainties would crash into new variables. I looked back at my work. 50 cattle vanished, tracks leading nowhere, evidence pointing everywhere, and one baby god standing at the center of a cosmic mystery that would reshape the very nature of divine politics. Phase 2. Complete. Time to go home and practice my innocent face. Apollo, darling brother, your... Chapter 5th. The Performance, Oscar-Worthy Innocence. Before the Sky Father, picture this. Apollo, god of truth and prophecy, standing before Zeus in a towering rage, demanding justice against an infant who claimed to have been born yesterday and couldn't possibly know what cattle were, let alone steal 50 of them. Zeus looked from his golden son to his youngest son, me, wrapped in swaddling clothes, gazing up with the wide, innocent eyes of a creature barely 24 hours old. The cosmic tension was exquisite. "Father," Apollo thundered, This baby has committed grand theft against a major Olympian. He must be punished." I blinked slowly, tilted my head with perfect confusion, and delivered the line I'd been rehearsing since conception. "Cattle? What are cattle? I was born yesterday. I don't even know what these mooing things are." The pause before mooing was calculated, just long enough to suggest I was genuinely struggling to remember the word for the sound cattle make. Amateur actors oversell. Masters know that less is more, that the most convincing lie is wrapped around a kernel of truth. Zeus's eyes narrowed. He hadn't become king of the gods by being gullible. But here's what I was counting on: his sense of cosmic humor. Zeus appreciated cleverness, audacity, the beautiful moment when established order gets creatively disrupted. "Show me your hands," Zeus commanded. I held up my baby hands, pink and soft and obviously designed for nothing more dangerous than thumb-sucking. "These hands, Father? These hands that can barely hold a rattle? You think these hands stole Apollo's sacred herd?" The beauty of this moment, I wasn't technically lying. My hands hadn't done the stealing, my mind had. My hands were just the tools. The crime was intellectual, not physical. And intellectual crimes require intellectual punishment, which requires intellectual acknowledgement, which means acknowledging my intelligence, which means acknowledging my threat level, which means acknowledging my power. Apollo began listing evidence: the backwards tracks, the ritual sacrifice, the woven sandals. Each detail more sophisticated than any day-old infant should be capable of conceiving, let alone executing. "Fascinating," I murmured, eyes wide with apparent wonder. "Someone did all that? How clever." I wish I could meet this mysterious cattle stealer. "I bet we'd be friends." Zeus began to smile. Not the angry smile of a judge about to pronounce sentence, but the appreciative smile of a master recognizing a student who might actually surpass the teacher. "Very well," Zeus said finally. "Apollo, take your brother to recover your cattle." But his eyes twinkled with dangerous amusement. "Let's see how this plays out." That was the moment I knew I had him. Zeus wasn't treating this as a crime to be punished, but as entertainment to be enjoyed. He wanted to see what would happen when irresistible force met immovable object, when prophecy confronted possibility. As Apollo grudgingly led me toward Pylos, I mentally prepared for Phase 3, the musical seduction that would transform my enemy into my collaborator. The performance was over, the real show was about to... Chapter 6. The musical seduction, how to hack a god's soul through sound. Apollo marched me toward Pylos like a cosmic cop dragging a divine delinquent to justice. Poor, predictable golden boy had no idea he was walking straight into the most sophisticated emotional manipulation in mythological history. "There," I said innocently. pointing to the grotto where 48 cattle stood munching grass. "Are those your, what did you call them, moo creatures?" "Cattle," Apollo growled. "They're called cattle, and yes, those are mine, and you— Oh, how wonderful!" I clapped my hands in apparent delight. "I'm so happy we found them. You must be very relieved. I bet you want to celebrate." Apollo's righteousness was magnificent, really. All that divine authority, all that burning certainty, all that beautiful, exploitable predictability. He was gathering breath for another lecture about theft and justice when I casually pulled out the lyre. "I made this yesterday," I mentioned, as if sharing a minor craft project. "Want to hear it sing?" The first note stopped him mid-sentence. The second note stopped his thoughts. By the third note, I had direct access to his soul. See, here's what mortals never understand about music. It's not entertainment, it's invasion. Sound waves don't just reach your ears. They reorganize your internal architecture, restructure your emotional priorities, rewrite your neural pathways in real time. Music is consciousness hacking, and I had just plugged directly into Apollo's core programming. His eyes went wide, his anger dissolved into wonder. His clenched fists opened into reaching hands as if the music were something physical he could grasp and hold forever. Each note was carefully calculated. The rhythm matched his heartbeat, then gradually shifted it towards something more peaceful, more receptive. The melody traced mathematical patterns he recognized subconsciously, golden ratios, celestial harmonics, the secret frequencies that make gods remember why beauty matters more than justice. "How?" he whispered, and I could see his divine mind rewriting itself around this new impossible reality. Apollo was the god of music, yet this infant had just played something beyond his comprehension, beyond his experience, beyond his control. Though I suppose it is rather pretty, isn't it? Rather pretty. The understatement was surgical in its precision. I was watching a master of his domain realize that his domain had just expanded beyond his mastery, and the key to that expansion was being held by someone he'd dismissed as a common thief. Apollo took a step closer, then another. His entire body language shifted from confrontation to supplication. He wasn't demanding justice anymore. He was begging for beauty. "Teach me," he breathed. "Teach you what?" I asked, still playing, still innocent. "That what you're doing. How you make it sound like home," I suggested gently. "Like the music the stars make when they think nobody's listening? Like the song that was playing when the universe first decided to exist?" He nodded, speechless, transformed. Hook, line, sinker. Now came the delicious moment of turning the tables completely, making the victim grateful for the crime, the god grateful to the thief, the hunter grateful to become the hunted. "I'll make you a deal, brother." Chapter 7. The Grand Exchange, Trading Music for Immortal Authority. "Brother," I said, letting the word hang in the air like honey between us. "I can see this little instrument means something to you." Apollo nodded eagerly, his earlier fury now completely transformed into desperate desire. The lyre continued its song in my hands, each note a golden thread binding his consciousness to my will. "I mean," I continued thoughtfully, "it's just a dead turtle with some sheep gut stretched across it. Nothing compared to your magnificent cattle, your divine authority, your— what did Zeus call it? Your sacred herd?" "The lyre," Apollo said urgently. "What do you want for the lyre?" Ah, the beautiful moment when your mark asks the crucial question. Not, "Will you give me the lyre?" but "What do you want for it?" He'd already accepted the transaction. Now we were just negotiating terms. "Well," I mused, "I suppose we could make a trade. The lyre for— what would be fair? Your cattle seem nice." "Yes, the cattle. All of them." I pretended to consider this, while mentally celebrating. He was offering me exactly what I'd stolen, but now it would be a gift rather than theft. Legal ownership instead of criminal possession, but why stop there? "Actually," I said slowly, "cattle are lovely, but there's so much work, aren't they? All that feeding and herding and mooing. I'm just a baby after all. I wouldn't know how to care for sacred cattle properly." Apollo's face fell. I could see him calculating desperately, trying to find something, anything, that would convince me to part with the instrument that had redefined his understanding of his own domain. "What then?" he asked. "What would you want instead?" "Well, I let my voice trail off, gazing up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "You're a god, aren't you? A real, official, important god with actual divine responsibilities?" He nodded. "I bet Father gives you important jobs. Special tasks, sacred duties." I sighed wistfully. "That must be wonderful, having a purpose, having a place in the cosmic order." "Hermes," Apollo said urgently, understanding flooding his features. You want divine appointment?" I blinked as if the idea had never occurred to me. Could someone like me, someone born yesterday in a cave, could someone like me become an actual god? With real responsibilities? The negotiation shifted into its final phase. Apollo wasn't just buying a musical instrument anymore, he was investing in a partnership. The lyre for the cattle, yes, but more. Divine recognition, official appointment, the herald's staff that would make me Zeus's messenger and grant me access to every realm, every secret, every center of power in existence. "The caduceus," Apollo said finally, pulling out his golden staff. "This makes its bearer the official herald of the gods. Messenger mediator, bridge between worlds." I looked at the staff, winged, serpent-wrapped, humming with authority, then at the lyre in my hands. "That seems like rather a lot for just a little music," I said doubtfully. "Please." The word escaped Apollo like a prayer. I smiled and held out the lyre. As his hands closed around it, I took the caduceus, feeling divine authority flow into my infant frame like lightning made solid. "Thank you, brother," I said softly. "I think we're going to be very good friends." The con was complete. The trickster was now officially divine. Game over, I win. Chapter 8, Olympian Ascension. From bastard baby to divine authority in 48 hours. Zeus was waiting for us when we returned, and his smile told me everything I needed to know. The king of the gods had been entertained. In the cosmic poker game of divine politics, entertainment is the highest currency, and I had just delivered a jackpot. "Well?" Zeus asked, though his twinkling eyes suggested he already knew the outcome. Apollo stepped forward, clutching the lyre like a sacred relic, transformed from my victim into my greatest advocate. "Father," he announced formally, "I wish to report that the matter of the stolen cattle has been resolved to everyone's satisfaction. Has it now?" Zeus's amusement was palpable. And how exactly was this resolution achieved? I held up the caduceus, letting its divine authority speak for itself. "Apollo and I discovered we have much in common, Father. We both appreciate creative solutions to complex problems." The understatement was perfect. What we'd really discovered was that established power structures could be hacked by those clever enough to offer something the system didn't know it needed. Apollo hadn't just traded with me, he'd upgraded himself through me. "I see," Zeus said solemnly, though I caught the proud glint in his eyes. "And this caduceus? This symbol of divine messengerhood?" "A gift from brother to brother," Apollo said quickly, "in recognition of natural talent. The phrase almost made me laugh. There was nothing natural about any of this. Every moment had been calculated, every gesture rehearsed, every outcome engineered. But Apollo needed to believe in my natural gifts because admitting he'd been systematically manipulated would undermine his own divine dignity. Zeus stood, and the very air seemed to hold its breath. "Hermes," he said formally, "youngest son of Zeus by right of birth and by demonstration of unique capabilities. I hereby confirm your appointment as herald of the gods, messenger between realms, guide of souls, and protector of boundaries." The words fell like golden coins into my consciousness, each one binding cosmic law to my will. Official, legitimate, irreversible. "Furthermore," Zeus continued, clearly enjoying himself, "you are granted a seat among the 12 Olympians, with all privileges and responsibilities therein. 12 seats, 11 established gods. One trickster who had just talked his way into immortal authority, while everyone was still trying to figure out what had happened." I bowed deeply, the picture of humbled gratitude. "Thank you, Father. I promise to serve with appropriate creativity." Zeus laughed, a sound like thunder made joyful. "I'm counting on it, my boy. Divine politics has been getting rather predictable lately. I suspect that's about to change." Around us, the other Olympians were beginning to understand what they'd just witnessed. Not a simple resolution of theft, but a masterclass in systemic infiltration. A brand new god had just secured legitimate power through methods none of them had ever considered. Some looked impressed, some looked worried, All looked like they were rapidly recalculating their assumptions about how the game of divine politics was actually played. Perfect. Predictability is the enemy of progress. Chaos is the enemy of stagnation, and I was about to become the sworn enemy of both. The bastard baby born in a cave was now officially a god of Olympus, with duties spanning every realm and access to every secret. In 48 hours, I had accomplished what others spent centuries pursuing. The age of the trickster had officially begun, and I had the caduceus to prove it. Welcome to my world, fellow gods. Try to keep up. Chapter 9. The Perfect Con, a Trickster's Victory Meditation. 2 days ago, I was a gleam in Zeus's eye and a calculation in Maia's womb. Tonight, I stand on Olympus itself, caduceus in hand, divine authority flowing through my immortal veins like liquid starlight. They'll write songs about this someday, though they'll get the details wrong, as mortals always do. They'll say I was naturally mischievous, that I acted on divine instinct, that my theft was spontaneous childhood rebellion. They'll completely miss the point that every nanosecond was planned, from conception to coronation, the most elegant infiltration operation in cosmic history. Look at what I accomplished. I turned theft into gift-giving, conflict into collaboration, criminal behavior into divine appointment. I convinced Apollo to thank me for stealing his cattle by offering him something he wanted more. I made Zeus proud of me for causing chaos by making it entertaining chaos. But the real masterpiece wasn't the individual moves, it was the systemic transformation. Before me, divine power was inherited, earned through centuries of service, or seized through violent revolution. I introduced a fourth option, intellectual conquest, power through pure cleverness. Every god on Olympus is now rethinking their assumptions about how authority works, how challenges emerge, how the game itself can be changed mid-play by someone who refuses to accept the existing rules. I didn't just join the pantheon, I evolved it. The cattle were never the point. The lyre was never the point. Even the caduceus, magnificent as it is, was never the point. The point was recognition. Not just acknowledgement that I exist, but acknowledgement that I exist as a force of transformation. Every god who looks at me now sees the same thing. Proof that the impossible can become inevitable through sufficient audacity and superior intelligence. I am no longer Zeus's bastard son hidden in a cave. I am Hermes, Olympian god, herald of the divine realm, messenger between worlds, guide of souls, protector of boundaries, patron of thieves and merchants, and anyone else clever enough to see that reality is far more flexible than authority figures want you to believe. But here's the beautiful secret they still don't fully understand. This was just phase 1. Now that I have official divine status, legitimate cosmic authority, and access to every realm in existence, the real work begins. Every boundary exists to be crossed. Every system exists to be optimized. Every established pattern exists to be creatively disrupted by someone with better ideas and the power to implement them. The age of predictable divine politics is over. The age of creative impossibility has begun. And I am its prophet, its engine, its eternally grinning ambassador. Maya thinks her baby pulled off a clever prank. Apollo thinks he made a favorable trade. Zeus thinks he gained an entertaining new family member. None of them realize they've just witnessed the birth of a new form of consciousness, one that sees every limitation as an invitation, every boundary as a doorway, every impossible as merely a challenge that hasn't met the right trickster yet. Tomorrow, I start exploring exactly what a divine messenger with unlimited access and unlimited creativity can accomplish when he sets his mind to reshaping reality itself. The universe has no idea what's coming. I can hardly wait to show them.
Like and subscribe for more Morning Star illumination.